Hello and welcome to the Never Heard of It podcast. This is Craig Moorhead.
And I'm Shawn Harwell, and this is the podcast where we talk about movies that slip through our cracks. Welcome, welcome.
Yes, welcome. Welcome. Today we'll be talking about the 1985 action drama, action-adventure drama.
Jungle drama.
The jungle drama, thank you. The Emerald Forest, starring Powers Booth, Meg Foster, Yaravanu, and John Boorman's son. Directed by John Boorman, probably in 1984. We don't have to get into all that.
No, he made it sometime.
Here's the synopsis. From IMDb, our friends at IMDb. After the son of engineer Bill Markham is abducted by an Aboriginal tribe on the edge of the rainforest, the engineer spends the next 10 years searching for him.
Let me just say real quick, this movie was suggested to us by a friend and listener of the show, Heath Michaels. Thank you, Heath.
Thank you, Heath.
If you would like to suggest a movie, and we're always taking them, you can find us at neverheardpodcast.com. Find us on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, etc. at neverpodcast on Twitter. Go and make a suggestion, because we got a bunch coming up.
So, Shawn, as we said, our friend Heath Michaels recommended this movie. Had you ever heard of it?
No, not at all. I think I've come to know John Boorman just like post film school because of, Deliverance, genius. But certainly, I think some of these were movies like Excalibur I probably saw as a kid. Maybe this one popped up on the radar somewhere and I just forgot about it. But definitely did not ring a bell. And so I had no clue what we were getting into. The title to me strikes me as sort of something maybe from the fantasy genre for whatever reason. I don't think there's any real specific allusions to the forest that the movie takes place in as being called the Emerald Forest. I'm trying to remember correctly. Although the stones that are found in the river that this tribe, the invisible tribe that the son was abducted into, that they use for their face paint to quote unquote make them invisible, I believe those were somewhat emerald in color. So maybe that's where that connection comes from. But that's a long way of saying, nah, I had no idea what it was. I was excited to check it out. Powers Booth, slightly on my radar. I had seen Southern Comfort, and then obviously looking at his resume, like, oh yeah, this guy's been in a million things. What about you? I think you said you were familiar about this maybe and thought it was a horror movie or something.
Yeah, well, I remember the poster of it from when I was a kid, and the title font is kind of scrawled on there, and sort of a thing that was reminiscent of cuts, maybe, kind of slicing through things, and the image seems to be on the poster, anyways. Here's Dad, and then here's a kid who is pointing an arrow at Dad. I always assumed it was something like he goes in, like, I kind of knew what it was about. I knew he lost his son, and that was his son. But I thought then, like, his son was actually someone who was going to do him harm. So I had no idea that this was, that the movie that I saw was what I was going to be watching. Right.
Well, let's talk just for a second about how we watched this movie, because that in itself was a bit of an experience.
Context is going to be big on this one.
Yeah. This movie is available on Blu-ray and DVD. Streaming, not so much. I watched it on YouTube, and a very poor transfer that had Greek subtitles, and about 10 to 15 minutes through the movie when young Tommy is talking to his now native indigenous tribe father, if you will, I started to suspect that maybe I was missing some English subtitles that probably should be there. That's not to say I didn't quite get with the gist of what was going on, but I thought I maybe should put pause on this and see if I can find the English subtitles. I did on a surprisingly even crappier transfer on YouTube. We're talking 240p here, just to give you an idea. So that's not the best scenario to watch this in, obviously. I still enjoyed it, I gotta say. Craig, I think you, correct me if I'm wrong, watched a version with absolutely no subtitles.
That's true. I wasn't able to access the subtitles, Shawn, and And very much the same as you. I mean, I believe I actually texted you at some point and said, are there supposed to be subtitles here? Because honestly, like you said, it wasn't very hard to follow it. I kind of understood what was happening. Mm-hmm. And then I was like, and then I was thinking maybe this is just a brave choice. You know, we're not going to know what they're saying, but we can tell everything that's happening. Like, you get it. And then I attempted to find some subtitles. That failed quickly. So I said, you know what? I'm just going to watch this pure, no subtitles, and see, how lost I get. And I have to say, I don't feel like I got lost. I don't think there's anything really besides maybe some parts where after his dad shows up and he's with the whole tribe and they've like taken him in and have healed him and everything, that I was unclear exactly what was happening.
Right.
But even then I could kind of make it up. And honestly, it was kind of fun. I liked watching it that way.
Well, I mean, I think it was Spielberg always said that any good movie you should be able to watch completely with the sound off and still know what's going on. So I think that's a fun experiment to do every now and then. The only thing that I noticed from when I switched back and forth was there's a scene where we're first catching up with Tommy and seeing that he's kind of assimilated and become basically a young man. I think he's probably 17, 18, with his tribe, full on loincloth. I mean, he's living that life, and there's no doubt about it. He's a hunter, and he comes back from a hunt with his father to the tribe, and they greet him in what I thought with the Greek subtitles was a big celebratory welcome back, awesome job on the hunt, pat on the back. The women are happy to see him. They're kind of going off and running around. That's not actually what was happening. Was he was alerting the rest of the tribe, which I learned from the subtitles, that they realized on this hunt that another tribe known as the Fierce People, which is sort of like the warring tribe, which we later learned have cannibalistic tendencies, which is always a nice, fun thing to add to any movie, I think, were close by, and that there was a potential kind of war going on there. So all these people that were gathering around him and then going their separate ways were actually going off to kind of prepare for a possible run-in with that tribe. And so I thought, well, okay, you know what? Yeah, that did change my interpretation of it a little bit. But I also, I'm trying to think, are there other instances where something like that I think even could be interpreted? And I don't know. I mean, there's a scene later, well, we'll get to that later on, but when Tommy sort of takes a wife, if you will, by bonking her over the head with a bat. There might have been something there that the girl says that I think would help that scenario.
And I think I might know what it is.
Okay,
that's interesting.
Well,
we'll see.
Yeah, we'll test that out in a little bit. I do think it's kind of interesting to talk about how this movie is made, specifically because you've got this father-son story, and yes, this movie is directed by John Boorman and starring his son, Charlie Boorman. Did you know Charlie Boorman at all? And did you know, how quickly did you pick up on that watching the movie, that was his son? Because it took me, I was like, wait a second, is that... I looked it up while I was watching it.
No, I had no idea that anyone named Charlie Boorman was in the movie.
Okay,
even despite watching the opening credits and so on. I tuned that out actually pretty quickly.
Well, it appears, I think, had little teeny tiny roles as boys in Deliverance and Excalibur, and then this was sort of his big leading role.
The Charlie Boorman trilogy.
The Charlie Boorman trilogy, and then it dawned on me halfway through this movie, I was like, oh, wait a second. I know exactly who this is. There was a great sort of reality series that Charlie Boorman did with Ewan McGregor where they rode motorcycles. They did a round-the-world trip on a motorcycle called Long Way Round. I think it was on, I don't know, Bravo or one of these cable channels. It's fantastic. I had no idea who the guy... I mean, I'm sure in the series they mentioned, this is the son of John Boorman. He was in the Emerald Forest. You may remember him in his loincloth, speaking an indigenous language. And quite convincingly, I should say. So that kind of threw me for a loop there a little bit. Because I was like, oh my God, this is that guy. Wow, that's crazy. And it seems like he's done quite a bit of sort of travel log kind of shows. There's a lot of that out there. I mean, he's definitely still acting here and there, but definitely seems like maybe the career shifted more on that front. And I'm also dying to read. John Boorman wrote a book. He sort of did a diary about the production of this movie, which...
Oh, really?
Yeah, called Money into Light, which I haven't found any passages from, but I thought maybe kind of fun to just sort of start. I found this thing in a New York Times review just to kind of give you an idea of what they were going into, because, I mean, you know, now I think about like, oh God, being on set is like such a long, like it can be such long, tiresome, boring days, you know, maybe you don't have access to the internet as much as you want because you can't have your phone on. Here they are, they're like, you know, in Brazil, and I'll just read a little bit from this article, right? Okay, so they set off to find a place near the Xingu River, which is a major tributary in Brazil to the Amazon, and apparently the jungle there had been, you know, predominantly too thick to be penetrated at all, and so they think that, and these are anthropologists believe, that basically that place was undiscovered from 9,000 to 10,000 years between like Indians and late Stone Age Neolithic ancestors, which is crazy, right?
Wow.
And they really weren't kind of made contact with until after WW2 even, when they started, you know, they were flying planes over the area and into these jungle clearings. So that's insane because... Hey, I think there's probably a limited amount of research, and that's one thing I think when you watch this movie, you get a very real sense that they're not just making this crap up. Like all the rituals and the things that's going on, the paint, just the way they interact with the tribe, like it feels very authentic to me. But this is kind of crazy too. So, you know, Boorman went there to make contact with these people and was trying to find like a tribe that they could work with and learn from. And so they flew in on a small plane, and 3 hours into the flight, the pilot announced that the plane had sprung a gas leak. And so they had nowhere to land, and the plane flying low, a village in the thin airstrip of government Indian Affairs outposts appeared on cue among the trees, and they safely landed. But then on a much later return flight, a bat flew into the very same plane and bit the pilot. And John Boorman is quoted as saying it was a scene from a Dracula movie, and he was forced to land the plane himself. So,
wow.
Yeah, I can only imagine there are 1,000 more stories in that diary, not to mention probably some interesting observations about working with his son, who I think was in his early 20s at the time, among a gaggle of topless native women, and sort of directing your son to become then there's no like explicit sex scene with his son becoming a man. Not really.
Unfortunately.
And unfortunately, obviously. But there's some of that there. I mean, that's kind of, and that's just, I don't know, it's just such an interesting relationship. And it does seem like he and his father, I don't know, I didn't see anything to suggest that they've had any sort of falling out or anything like that. And additionally on this subject, there's a documentary called Me and My Dad about John Boorman that was made by his daughter, Katrine. So yeah, I think there's a wealth of stuff that we can look into if you like this movie, if you like John Boorman, if you like Charlie Boorman, that I think it would kind of, I don't know, it informs your viewing, or at least adds some spice to it afterwards.
No, it definitely does, and I would like to know more about how it was shot, because it doesn't look like it would have been an easy shoot.
In no freaking way.
It certainly does not look like they are on a sound stage. So if they were actually shooting there, that's pretty incredible.
Yeah, and let's talk about that a little bit, because this movie does open, like we said, with a prologue, and you're finding out that they're clearing a good chunk of this land, and that's what Powers Booth is there for. He's sort of, I think he's kind of like the engineer for this entire town of some sort, but at least they're building a dam to provide power to this area that they're going to develop. And the son is off playing in the woods, in the jungle there, goes out just a little bit. And the next thing you know, he's abducted and gone. And we're cutting to 10 years later. Some really just expansive establishing glimpses in that prologue of what that cleared area looks like. And then, when you're back 10 years later, there's a freaking dam. Like, it's a real dam, And so, I don't know, just all that stuff was cool. Like, it definitely, you feel like you're there. One of the things I really liked about this movie was how Powers Booth and Charlie Boorman meet up. Like, their moment of, what do you want to call that? Rediscovery, I guess, for one another. And, I mean, that's kind of coming after Powers Booth has again set off into the jungle. He's never stopped looking for this kid for 10 years. The wife has been working with all these like abandoned orphans groups in the area, obviously hoping that the son will walk in there at some point or someone will know him. But he sets off on this little mission with, I think the guy was like a newspaper reporter, right? Uwe, was that his name? Yeah. The guy with he's got a pretty awesome skullet, you know? He's bald on top.
He does, yeah. He was an interesting guy.
He was like the most unsympathetic person I've ever seen in my life, you know? He was just like the way he's talking to the wife about the kid and all this stuff. It's just, it's a 10 years, really, huh? Like, you know, it's like, you don't want to give up on this? Or it's just like the creepiest dude, but that's for good reason, is because they're sort of our first real interaction with the fierce people, the sort of warring tribe, and they accidentally stumble upon them, and we learn very quickly that they're going to keep that newspaper reporter guy and eat him, but they're going to let.
That was interesting. Now I did not previously understand that they had cannibalistic tendencies.
Well, there's some subtitles in there. I think maybe you missed a little bit.
Yes. But yeah, I did feel like that poor guy was in some serious danger, and then I was surprised and delighted, maybe is the word, I don't know, that Powers Booth doesn't Rambo out and like save both of them and get themselves out of it. Like he just basically is like, I gotta run.
And he has a machine gun too.
He does, yeah. He definitely could have taken down a number of those guys, but you know what? He wouldn't take them down all of them.
Well, the deal was sort of that they were going to keep that guy and they're going to let him go, but hunt him, because that's what that's sort of the sport of it. You can call it a manhunt if you will. Like another movie we watched.
Indeed.
But it's when Powers Booth is running away from them the next morning. He's still kind of going off of them, and I think they've caught up with him at that point, that he then runs into his son Tommy in the river, and Tommy actually saves him by, you know, helping kill some of these
fighting against the fierce people. Yeah.
I thought, you know, it didn't really kind of occur to me when I was watching it, but then I was thinking about it later. It's like, man, there's probably 100 different ways to have these two people run into each other again in the jungle that are all going to feel contrived. That one I just kind of totally went with, because you're in the moment. Like, it's just action, you know, and John Boorman is so good at that. That stuff did remind me of those sequences in Deliverance when they're just like praying to get down the river.
Well, yeah, even you know, even if you just ignore the fact that the way it's shot and the way it's put together is obviously really well done and really tells the story in a really gripping way that doesn't take you out of the moment. Yeah, I mean that the fact that this guy would ever find his son is completely ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like, he has nothing to go on, almost.
He has an arrow. That's it.
Exactly. He has
one arrow shot into a
nothing
tree.
to go on. Yeah. So, yeah, the fact that he would even find him is ridiculous. So the fact that, you can put it here where there's so much tension and already happening kind of helps misdirect you away from that.
I agree.
And
I think
because
also,
it's actually even more ridiculous that he would find his son right when he needed him.
Sure.
But, I mean, story-wise, that's exactly why it works.
Yeah, and it's entertaining. And it's also, I think it totally helps that, because I was honestly just a little surprised that they broke POV when we first kind of cut away to Tommy, you know, in the jungle. And I'm like, oh, this is going to be more than just a 2-minute scene of like, oh, here's his kid. Now, when is the dad going to find him? No, it's like, you're almost like, it kind of becomes his movie in a lot of ways, you know?
And you have a movie, you know, so the whole early 80s, you had your Rambos, you had a bunch of white guys with guns going
Predator,
in and either saving the day or just blowing everything up. And so in this movie, that's how it's all set up. All the posters, Powers Booth looks like a badass with his gun. He's going to go in that jungle. He's going to get his son. And what happens is his son saves him. Like, I mean, that's I guess what I really liked so much about it is it went completely a different way than what I ever thought it would ever have been. Like, I thought he was going to be at war with a tribe to save his son.
Right.
And it's completely not that, which I thought was, well, I mean, I guess it's not completely not that.
Well, that's what I was saying. It's still kind of like, it almost gives you your cake and eat it too by giving you that tribe that is a villain, you know, and that they are at war with. So, you know, you get all that action and it's really cool, but you're absolutely right. Like, it does not kind of take a conventional narrative, I think, in that sense.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's, I think from that point, it's kind of about the choice that Charlie Boorman's character has to make is, do you go back with your dad or do you stay with what's, you know, essentially been your family for the bulk of your young adulthood?
Yeah. Everything you know is this forest.
Yeah.
So.
And it seems like a pretty cool life. I mean,
I know. Yeah. It seems kind of great.
Yeah.
Except for the ants.
Oh gosh, the ants, they're so bad. Yeah, we should talk about those sequences a little bit because, yeah, you know, prior to kind of some of this happening, as we've mentioned, like there's, you know, it's basically the, I feel like there's a good Joseph Campbell term that I'm not thinking of, the mythical becoming a man kind of ritual that involves, they put all these ants on Charlie Boorman, Tommy, and I mean, it looks real. It just looks horrible. That actually, when I was talking to Heath a little bit, he said that was one of the few things that he remembered distinctly from watching this as a kid. And I was like, hands down, it's still awful and horrific. But then they do this thing, and it happens a couple times in the movie. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, maybe they did it to Powers Booth as well, where they blow these insane hallucinogens up Charlie Boorman's nostril with what looks like a very long, thin wooden pipe. And it allows him to, I guess, trip balls, if you want to use the parlance of our time, and connect with his spirit animal. Charlie Boorman's happens to be, I think it's a falcon or a hawk of some kind, which allows him to see where the stones in the river are. Man, I can't remember what Powers Booth was. Was it like a bear or something? Or no, it was like a jaguar.
I was going to say it was jaguar, yeah.
Yeah, it was some jungle cat. I feel like, and again, maybe watching it in 240p is not the best way to say this, but I thought there was some really beautiful just wildlife photography in this movie, some of which is in that moment of seeing these spirit animals. Although I do think there was one at the end that was like a pretty bad green screen of the hawk flying. But anyway.
Yes. But, you know,
one out of a whole movie ain't bad.
Yeah. To bring peak nostalgia into it, so some of those effects remind me fondly of the time period.
Sure.
Where, you know, there was a time when that would be convincing enough and it wouldn't have completely taken you out of it.
Well, it didn't take me out either. I mean, you know, maybe there is nostalgia talking a little bit, but it didn't take me out too bad.
But no, it was beautiful. I mean, the picture I had on mine was beautiful. I mean, it was you know, a bit grainy because it was actually shot on this thing called film.
Never heard of it.
Yeah, I mean, it was so nice to look at. It was great.
Awesome. And then, you know, the movie kind of takes a slight shift after, you know, it felt like, and maybe I'm jumbling the order a little bit, that, you know, Tommy makes it pretty clear this is his life. He, you know, goes through the journey to become a man. He takes a wife, Kachiri, I think is her name, in that sequence where he beats her over the head with a bat.
Yeah.
And she said something right before to him. Do you know what she said, Craig? Because you didn't have the subtitle. What do you think she said?
I don't really know what she said, but the vibe I got was...
Yeah, what was the vibe?
That he was worried about hitting her with it.
Mm-hmm.
And she either told him it was okay, or she told him, well, hit me like this, and I'll pretend to pass out.
Your first instinct was right.
Okay.
So congratulations. I think you passed this subtitle test.
Fantastic.
Yeah, she sort of, I think she says, do it right. Like that kind of like, you know, like she's as much worried about what people will think if he doesn't do it than he is about, what they're going to think if he does. And totally a great. I thought she was fantastic, man. She's so good. Like, and she's been in a couple other things. I don't think any of them are English language, but totally believable. But so he has this wife now, and sort of he's become a man of the tribe. I think he tells his father this is where his home is, and they sort of have this understanding. But then the wife is taken hostage by. And you got to help me out here because I can't remember who did it. It was the Fierce People, right?
The Fierce People, took all the women and basically sold them to a local. Somehow there's a local, bar, brothel situation. I assume for all the construction folks that are in town, and so you have these prostitutes there that are really just these women that they stole from the jungle, and in return. The Fierce People get guns and ammo.
Which is kind of fascinating and somewhat like that feels really still modern to me. Like, you're talking about sex trafficking and we know this is still happening, but like to see it like that, like to come from those indigenous tribes, like it's like doubly heartbreaking in a way, and it's especially interesting here because, I'll admit, like, it's kind of weird. Weird's maybe the best word that I can use for it right now, just to see women going topless the entire length of a movie. Because this is not what we're used to in the Western society. And then when they're thrust into that world and they have to wear these like awful outfits, to be these prostitutes, like you can just tell it, like that's like part of their handcuffs in a way, is being forced into that world. And I think that also kind of, it just goes hand in hand with helping you understand why Tommy would choose to stay in a place that's somehow more innocent than that, and somehow just less yucky. That's like that bar is so seedy. Like even now, I'm just like, oh god, like that. I can't imagine. Like it maybe in 1985, it looked kind of like cool seedy, but now it's just like, oh, that like I wouldn't put my foot down in that place with a shoe on,
Well, but I assume that's if you're going to that bar, it's because there's really no other choice if you're looking to go to a bar.
That's true.
There's not really another nightlife that's nearby.
Right.
It's pretty heinous.
Well, let's talk a little bit about kind of how this builds. And I think if there was any moment for me that kind of, I don't know, was a bit less enjoyable to me, it was when Tommy and his friend from the tribe kind of came into the city a little bit looking for Powers Booth. There's like a cool sequence involved in that where they're running around. These people are like shooting at them. I can't even remember why exactly. But it felt slightly convenient that I don't know. I don't remember the mechanics exactly of how they ended up finding their dad or Charlie's dad, There was a guy there I know that helped them, but I don't know. At any rate, it kind of doesn't matter because it had to happen,
Kind of, yeah. Well, and that's what I guess I was wondering because again, I didn't have any subtitles. But once everything had kind of gone down, I was wondering if I had missed something and that maybe Tommy, like they both went there looking for someone at least like the people that they found.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. That's definitely mentioned in some of that.
Okay.
That's kind of where they're headed. But the result is you then get Powers Booth coming to help them raid this brothel. And I don't know. I thought that was pretty damn satisfying. Like I got no qualms with people.
It was.
Okay, what are you going to say? Yeah.
That was the one part in the story. And really, I can't say it was like completely... I don't know, like it didn't belong or something, but it was kind of funny. It's like when that was about to happen was when I thought to myself, oh yeah, this is a 1985 movie.
For sure.
It felt like the end of like a million action movies where we don't have a big budget, so we're going to have a place kind of out in the woods and we're going to have kind of a
Awful
gunfight.
People. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it really ends up being a lot more interesting than that. Because there is a lot more at play, but it just felt like, or it kind of felt like, well, we do need Powers Booth to do something kind of badass. Totally. So let's have this be it.
And that, I think, is what I kind of liked about it. Yeah, you're right. It feels almost from a different movie, and yet it kind of worked for me because it was somewhat of a selfless act for Powers Booth. By doing that, he again is kind of giving up on the idea of his son coming back to his family, but he's doing it more for the son and his wife than anything else. And because it's the right thing to do, which then kind of ties into the very end, which is, it gets, I don't know, is preachy the right word, but it definitely gets into the subject of, okay, you're Powers Booth, you're building a dam, you're developing this area, which now you've seen the beauty of what can happen when you leave it alone and let the people live there that have lived there for 10,000 years, and sort of the guilt that he feels about that. And then the actions he takes are pretty extreme. Mm-hmm. Although then there's an act of God a little bit. I don't know. I didn't quite want to give a bear hug to the last 5 minutes of the movie, because I liked how sort of nice and simple and clean it was when Tommy and his dad went their separate ways. Yeah. And Tommy saying, man built this dam, but nature, I think he does say something like, nature can, we pray to so-and-so that nature, the great rain, when the frogs start singing, the rain will come and can wash it away, or something to that effect. What do you think about that? Because and maybe that's, again, a little bit about what you're talking about. Well, you got to give Powers Booth something to do. And so this movie that has been really about Tommy definitely ends with Powers Booth. Yes. Which does seem... Well, see, I actually feel like even though blowing up an entire dam is a little more ridiculous, for me that moment works better than raiding the bar. Mm-hmm. Because that's exactly what it is. Like he's doing this to ensure his son's way of life now, right? More or less, and I mean in lesser ways, he's trying to say, oh, we're destroying nature, and this is wrong in a sense. I mean, there's also that, and maybe this is just having 30 years of hindsight now, but there's also that feeling of like, well, blow up as many dams as you want. They're not going to stop building dams. Like, right. It's not like they're going to suddenly never do this again. But it is a grand gesture. There's no doubt about that. It's very grand. Yeah, it's a big movie moment there at the end. I didn't even think about this until now, but there's a bit of a rub in the fact that he's got a conscience about what they're doing to the jungle, and yet nobody really seems that bothered by the fact that anytime somebody gets killed in this movie, there are multiple murders committed left and right. Doesn't really seem to weigh heavily on anybody. Now, granted, the people that died, I think they were probably justified. They were threatening the lives of others, if not doing worse things than, prostitution and whatnot. Not good people. But, I don't think there's no indication in the movie that Powers Booth even gave it 2 seconds thought about the fact that he killed it. Yeah. And I mean, Powers Booth is definitely sort of this role could have been played by John Wayne if it was in the 60s. Mm-hmm. He's a man's man in 80s terms. Right. He's not going to, I don't know. He's there to do what has to be done. How did you like him in this movie? How did I like him? Yeah. Oh, I liked him great. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to offend you. Don't question my love of Powers Booth. I won't. I mean, he's got hands down one of the best names in the world. It really is. Powers Booth. Yeah, I liked him a lot too. I was trying to think of, is there a modern who is our Powers Booth, Craig? From today. Man, yeah. Do we have a Powers Booth?
who can be so genial and charming 1 minute, but deadly serious the next?
I know. I was trying to think, and like the only two names I came up with, and I'm almost embarrassed to say them.
Oh no.
Were Vin Diesel and Keanu Reeves.
Oh, whoa.
And see, I know, I'm not even close, right?
I don't think, but it's hard to say, who's our Powers Booth without just thinking like who is most like Powers Booth.
Yeah.
In looks and demeanor. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I'd say Vin Diesel though. I'm sorry.
I completely understand.
Are you taking that back, or are you still?
I'm not taking it back. I'm just it's out there with a question mark on it, maybe an asterisk.
Powers Booth.
Like I said, I didn't feel 100% right. Sometimes you got to go with what feels like 30%
Sometimes, yeah.
right.
Sometimes you got to go with your gut, man.
Let's see. Anything else we want to talk about with this movie?
I wanted to point out that when he finds his son in this 1985 movie that was shot in the jungles of the Amazon, what we now call Amazon.com.
Yeah, Seattle.
His dad gets a spear through the arm. Now, I only watched that moment once, but it seemed like you're looking at the two of them, and then the spear goes into his arm. And I just wanted to throw out, as a practical effect, I thought that worked quite well.
I liked it. I liked that Tommy then broke the end off and pulled it out like it's something he's done 1,000 times.
That's something you have to do. That's right.
Yeah. It felt very real and very enjoyable.
Mm-hmm. And the only other thing I would say is that I was always very concerned whenever people were walking around on those wet rocks in that river. I just was like, that's a split open head just waiting to happen.
Well, I'm glad you brought this up, Craig.
Oh.
Because I had a couple little bits of trivia here that I thought I might throw at you, and one of them is about Mr. Charlie Boorman's toe during the production of this movie. You want to take a guess at how many times he broke one particular toe, the same toe, during the production of this movie?
Well, Sean, once you've broken a toe, it's easy to break it again.
Is that right?
I have no idea.
Yeah,
but
sounds good.
I would bet that you're asking me what toe was it?
No. It was the same toe. I don't know which toe exactly.
Oh.
Guess how many times he broke it.
How many times he broke his toe? I'm going to guess 15 times.
That would be more interesting, but no, it's actually 4.
4. Well, that's a lot of times to break a toe, though.
To break a toe.
You're probably only there for like 2 months.
Yeah. Yeah, 4. Yeah, you do the math. That's a lot of toe breaking going on.
That's like, yeah, one break every 2 weeks. That doesn't feel good. How does he even get around? I've broken my toe. I've broken several toes.
Have you?
On numerous occasions. I'm sort of a connoisseur of breaking my toes.
Yeah, fragile toes, more head.
And I mean, you limp around for 2 weeks. Easy, you limp around for 2 weeks. So like basically, he'd just be getting good, and he'd be like, "All right, Dad, let's go shoot this today." Is that a good English accent?
Perfect.
And then he'd just break his toe that day.
Well, I think probably I'm going to go ahead and assume that whatever the drug was that they were blasting up his nostril was real. Yeah, and that he wasn't feeling anything.
That could be.
But Craig, we almost didn't get Charlie Boorman in this role.
Really?
We wouldn't have had a British accent to reproduce whatsoever.
Can I guess who?
Yeah.
Oh, do you know who?
I know who. Boorman's initial choice was a very well-known actor from this time period.
Let me make 2 guesses. The first one's totally a joke, but if it's true, I'm going to lose my mind.
Okay.
First guess is Willie Ames, the guy from Charles in Charge.
No, but they do kind of look alike here. Yeah, okay. That would, yeah.
The other guess would be what's his name? Is it Charlie Catt? William Catt, Greatest American Hero.
No.
Okay, I'm out of ideas.
C. Thomas Howell.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I mean, we all know he can play African American because of Soul Man.
Oh, yeah, I know. He's got incredible range.
So, yeah.
Never off the mark. But it's interesting because they do kind of look alike.
They do. But I was never really for a second convinced that Charlie Boorman looked anything like Powers Booth in this movie.
Oh, no.
Like, in fact, like I found his looks a little distracting because of how different it is.
Yeah, but, I mean, you have to work pretty hard to look like Powers Booth.
You're right.
I mean, he's only like 19, probably.
Never mind. Yeah.
But yeah, it was interesting to me because like I kind of felt like part of the reason of casting someone whose hair was that blonde, almost white blonde, was mainly to make it an easier connection for when he's older.
That and to also bring in the Blue Lagoon crowd.
Exactly. You don't want to leave those guys out. See Thomas Howell. What could have been?
Could have been. Last little bit of trivia here. Apparently, because of the fact that these poor women, I don't know, they're poor, not maybe they enjoy this, maybe that's how they do it all the time, went topless for the entire duration of a movie.
Yeah.
There's some bit about the fact that maybe the entire crew did, or at least some of the American and Western British people would do naked aerobics to start the day, to kind of get everybody in the right frame of mind and be kind of comfortable with their body. I don't know. That sounds like who was that guy? Paul Verhoeven used to do that or something.
Interesting.
And then I don't think we mentioned this, but supposedly this is based on a true story.
So I read something about that too, and what I understood was that people have been trying to pin that down and haven't been able to. That it's sort of an amalgamation of two different stories. One of a boy who disappeared into the Amazon jungle, and another one.
The other one just blew up a dam.
And the other one just like chipped a little bit off a dam one time.
I think that's it for this movie. That's all I have. The only other thing I want to say is, like, yeah, if you don't know John Boorman, man, get to know John Boorman. Have you seen Hell in the Pacific, Craig?
I have.
I forgot he directed that.
Fantastic movie.
Awesome movie. Lee Marvin, Toshiro Mifune.
Yeah.
Japanese and American soldier stranded after the war. It's great.
Just a two-hander, right? It's just those two characters.
Yep. And they don't speak each other's language. It's
a master class
awesome
in lots of things.
Yeah. He also, if I'm not mistaken, made the classic Zardoz with Sean Connery.
Sean Connery in a thong?
Yeah, insane.
Space thong?
So
nice.
He's got some interesting things in there. I think also he tried to make Lord of the Rings as a live-action thing way back in the day.
I could see that. Probably after Excalibur.
I believe so.
Yeah.
And yeah, he's a Brit through and through.
Good for him.
So yeah, awesome dude. Craig.
Yeah.
Let's do another listener suggested movie next week. How about that?
I love it. I love our listeners, Shawn, and I love the fact they suggest movies to us.
I know, my God. Can you imagine how much time that takes?
I want to think about it.
Another friend of the show, David Piles, suggested the movie Rhinoceros starring Zero Mostel and Gene Wilder. And I had never heard of this movie, but God knows I love some Gene Wilder. So I'm all on board. This is streaming on Amazon Prime. And I think it could be a pretty cool one.
I've seen this in play form.
Wow.
And I'm looking forward to it. I love the matchup, and the play is pretty nutso.
Awesome. Well, that will be fun to talk about then, the differences between the two. And we'll do that next time. And maybe there will be an actual rhinoceros with us.
That sounds so good.
Sounds really cool, doesn't it?
Yeah.
All right. Until then, Craig.
Do a shout out. We'd like to do a shout out to our friends podcast, Podcasting Them Softly, which always has good episodes. Lots of them out there for you if you want to start listening to them. But recently I listened to their interview with one Peter Hyams, director of 2010. What was the other one you mentioned?
The Relic.
The Relic?
Yeah, among others.
It's the kind of interview I really appreciate because I feel like Peter Hyams is not a guy that a lot of media generally gravitates toward to find out his thoughts on things and find out his story. But he's a guy I've seen probably almost every movie he's made, and I mean it's so amazing to hear those thoughts coming out of his grill. So go check that out. It is very much worth it.
Awesome. Yeah, and maybe we'll find a Peter Hyams movie to talk about on this show sometime.
Indeed.
Cross-pollination.
Oh, let's pollinate.